whatever we were doing, we were just creating the markups. So there was no controller whatsoever in those pages, right? Today we'll start working on the controller part. So I told you there are 4 types of controllers which can be used in Visualforce page, right? Visualforce page controllers. The first one is a standard controller. Second is a standard list. Third is a custom controller. Fourth is an extension. Okay, so standard list, custom, and extension controller. All right. Now, what is standard controller? Let us start with the standard controller thing. Every object that you have in Salesforce has its own controller by default. Every object, it can be standard object, it can be custom object. They have their own controller. What is that controller? We have already discussed that it's a set of logics for that particular object. Got it? So when some data is being displayed for that object and there is a save button and all that stuff, so what that button would do, how the data will get displayed and all. So by default there is a standard controller available, or can I say standard controller, what I mean standard set of logic which is there by default. Okay. So standard controller, when we are using on a page, we are using that standard set of logic. We are not creating our own logics. We are using the logics which are already there in Salesforce. Okay. So if you say standard controller equals account, it means you are using the standard set of logics of the account object. Okay. The way we have standard objects, standard tabs, standard fields, the same way we have standard controllers also, right? So when you say this, you are in a way calling the standard set of logics for the account object. Then you don't have to define your own logics. You can use the logics which have been already defined by Salesforce. Clear? Okay. And writing this thing now, the standard controller or any controller now this is the other part. A controller is defined as the as an attribute of the page component. All right. So if you remember, we talked about components and attributes, right? So we are using a page component in the Visualforce page, Apex page component. The controller is an attribute of your page. Okay. So while you define the page, you have to define this attribute. Which controller, what type of controller, that has to be defined at the page level. Okay. So that is what we are going to deal with. So when you say standard controller equals account, in a way, this needs to be defined as an attribute of the page, and this will also connect your Visualforce page with the account object and the standard set of logics for the account object. Same way you can always go and say standard controller equals opportunity. Then your page will get connected to the opportunity object. Okay, and it will use the standard set of logics for the opportunity object. The same way you can say standard controller equals contact. Okay. So these are all standard objects: account, opportunity, contact. You can also write standard controller equals consultant double underscore C. Now because consultant is a custom object, for that you have to write a double underscore C at the end. Okay, so that is how it's written. But standard controller can be defined for custom objects also. Or you just write it like this. Correct? Okay. So now let's create a page and use a standard controller here. I will use the standard controller equals account thing here. Go here, click on this. Go to the code of the page. Right, standard controller equals count. Okay, now what has happened? Just writing this attribute, you have connected this page to the backend object, account object. Fine, that is what we were talking about the controller the other day. So there is a model, there is a view, and there is a controller. So model is a backend database, the view is this user interface, and the controller is the controlling logic or the connector between the model and view. The moment you say standard controller equals account, using this what you have done, you have connected your page with this account object in the backend. Okay, so that is it. All right. Now you can show the data from that object on your page. To call the data from that object, first of all you will have to use a controller that connects to that object, and now you can bring in data, you can edit the data, you can save some data in that object, because now the connection has been set. Right. So let's say I want to display the account name. So for doing that, this is the syntax. So once the connection is set, if you want to display the data or any value, field value from that object, you just have to do this. So this is the syntax within curly brackets, exclamation mark, object name dot field name. So in this case we want to display what? We want to display account name. So it should be account dot name. Then put a line break and then say account dot industry. So whatever fields are there, you can call those fields and display the data from those fields. Account dot type. Dot fine. So we have account dot name, industry, for type, phone, fax, everything.
जी
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that object name. So can you please repeat that? What that for?
This is a
Object
syntax.
name dot field name.
Yeah, so this is a syntax. I'm just showing the syntax. So how it should be written? If you want to retrieve the data from a certain
Okay, okay,
object, you should write it in this way.
okay. Got it.
Okay. Now, what is the error it is throwing? Can we read the error and tell me what is the mistake that I have done?
There is no field typing. Oh, S is missing.
Yes. So if you make a spelling mistake for the field name, it will throw an error.
So is this case sensitive?
No. In Salesforce, any programming is not case sensitive. I mean, including Visualforce and Apex Code. So we have that advantage. We don't have to be very particular for the case. Okay. Now I have written all these things. So I want to bring in the data of name, industry, type, phone, fax from account and display it on my Visualforce page. That is what I have told it. But this page does not show me any data. Does it show me any data? I wanted to fetch some data. Does it show me data here? No. It is kept it blank. What can be the reason for that? I want to see these data.
For which user it will bring?
For which account? Yeah, not user. This account, right? Correct. So now it needs to understand that which account are we talking about. So there can be hundreds or thousands of accounts in the account object. So I'm just saying account.name. Which account's name? Right? So that part is defined in the URL. The ID of the account which I want to display the details for, that needs to be supplied in the URL. So the page that we are creating, code basically is a generic or a template kind of a thing, and whatever ID we supply, it will start showing me data for that particular ID. Okay. So how do we get the ID? Here we need to supply the salesforce.com ID for the record. How do we do that? Go and open any account. Take the ID. Just take any account, take the ID. Put it here, question mark ID equals and paste it. Okay. So this much part is pretty much static V2, that will only show you the template, and then for which record, that needs to be defined after that. So this is where you define the ID. So how do you define the ID? After the page name, you have to type in these 4 characters, question mark ID equals, and then just paste the ID. Okay. So Ravi, I think you were just putting question mark. You were not putting these 3 things. That is the reason it was throwing error.
Yeah, maybe that was the reason.
So now just press enter. See, it shows the details of that particular record. Burlington textile apparel. I can put something like Name, industry, type, phone. Clear? So this is how it can be used and this is how it works. So this is a simple example what we are doing and what we have understood. Using a standard controller we display. So standard controller connects you to one object. Okay, you cannot connect to two different objects using a standard controller, and you can display one record on a page. Okay, so standard controller pages always require some ID in the URL. Okay, so in a standard controller page where you use a standard controller, you can only display one record on the page. Okay, if you want to display multiple records with the standard set of logics, then the second type of controller will be used. So we'll go into that later. We'll just work with the standard controller as of now. Alright. So now let's put a few more components here in the page. In the same page, I will put a few more components. Some components like a page block. So what a page block does? Page block. So there's a component called page block. Now this page block basically creates a block in the page. If you can see, you see this one. Okay, so what I can do is I can now copy and paste the entire thing inside this block. See, so if you start the page block component and then you put everything and then end the page block component, entire thing will come inside the block. Okay. So you can use this page block for keeping things organized and all. Other good thing about the page block is you always have an attribute called a title for the page block component. That will help you put a title to that. So this title can be a static title, hard-coded one. Account details, okay. Or you can have a dynamic title as well. Let's say you want to put the account name as the title, account.name. Okay, so your title can come from a certain field name also, right? Fine. Now there is another component which is called a page block section. Okay, so a page block section can be used within a page block, and this can be used for breaking the page block into different sections. Okay, so inside this page block, let me create two sections, apex page block section. Okay, so I've created a section and put it here. I will create another section, page block section. Okay, so now you can see a slight gap between these two things, right? Because these are two different page block sections. Okay, if you want to make the sections more prominent, you can add titles to the page block sections. Page block section also has an attribute called title. General info, and put a title here, call it contact info. So we are talking about a general info and a contact info. Okay. Got that? So that is how it works. Now this page block section by default is collapsible. So you see this thing, this is a default attribute of a page block section. Okay, but if you don't want your section to be collapsible, you can just go and turn it off. So go to the page block section, say collapsible equals false, and you see how simple it is to write code in Visualforce. It has that IntelliSense, so you can just type a little about things and you will get the entire thing. You get that hint. So you don't have to remember everything, and it's pretty fast also to write. See, now it's not collapsible anymore. Okay. So fine. So we'll quickly create a page. So I'll give a small activity to you all. You guys will create a page for opportunity, and I want you to create the page in the same way. Okay, but there should be two sections. Section 1 should have opportunity amount, close date, and stage. So under general information they should be there, and section 2 should have, sorry, the first section should have name, close date, and stage. The second section should have amount and expected revenue. Okay, so I want you to create the same kind of a page for opportunity. The way I am displaying these 5 fields, name, industry type, phone, fax, in the second section, I want you to have 2 sections for that. First section should display name, close date and stage name. Second section should display me amount and expected revenue. Okay, so let's do that quickly. Log in into your developer editions and design that. And Ravi, if you are using the same developer edition, please don't use any name in this V series. Okay, this V2, V3 I will create. You take some other series. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So let's say we have like 4 minutes to complete this. You want me to display the code on my screen? I think that will be helpful if you see the code on my screen. Yeah, so I am showing the code on my screen. You can take help from this code. Hello, done?
One more minute.
Yep, sure.